Okay, today is Wednesday, December 8th, and I'm Gail Scott, your host for this 12 Days of Conversation, and I am super excited to be introducing Aleks to my community and to give his community an opportunity to learn a little bit more about him. Although I know they know a lot about you already, Aleks, but I'm going to fire some questions at you so that they and everybody else can learn a little bit more about what makes you really tick. Oh, there was something else I was going to say and it's completely gone. Okay, doesn't matter. So let's get into this. So the reason why I decided to do these 12 days of conversation, one, because they were spirit led and I was told to do it. And this is kind of my love, is to speak to people and find out more about them. And the reason why I chose Aleks, everybody, is because, oh, I know what the question was. How do you pronounce your last name?
Saiyan.
Saiyan. Okay. I know
Yes.
you're Greek. No, you're not Greek. You're Greek?
Close. Armenian.
Armenian. Beautiful. Beautiful. So when I saw your name, I wasn't sure how to pronounce it. So Saiyan. Perfect.
Saiyan.
Yeah. So here we have Aleks Saiyan. He is the director of Toronto Dance Salsa. He's the main man. He is the main man of this absolutely amazing dance school located in North York at Empress Walk. And Aleks is the one who is going to really get your juices moving when you go for dance classes with him. He is such a motivator, just a beautiful spirit. So as I said, I'm so excited to bring you here, Aleks. And the reason why I chose to bring you here is because, and I mentioned this in my newsletter out to my subscribers yesterday, was when I first came to TDS 10 years ago, it really wasn't a community. And I really felt like I just really didn't know anybody and I didn't feel like I belonged at all. And so I took a hiatus for a decade, came back in 2018, and lo and behold, I met you. And you were just a ray of sunshine. And your way of being with all of your clients and your students is just so beautiful. And I love what you've done with this studio. You're all about family. You're all about belonging. And I know, and you're an amazing dance instructor as well. But I know that that wasn't always the case for you. So today I want to just kind of dive a little bit into who's Aleks Saiyan really, and let the audience and the people who are watching this in the replay understand a little bit about what makes you tick in terms of where you came from and how you've managed to create this amazing, successful business that you have now. So tell us a little bit about how you got started, because you weren't always in the dance industry, right?
No, not at all. So I didn't grow up dancing. I wasn't a baby dancer. I started late. For someone who runs a dance school, I started late. So that's 23. And what I mean by late, as in like now I run Canada's largest salsa dance school, right? And I didn't have rhythm. That wasn't something naturally I grew up with. For me, there was a lot of like traumatic moments of like being at a wedding or at a Halloween party and a girl be like, do you want to dance? And I'm like, nah, my legs are sore. Where just like me being self-conscious. And then she's dancing with some other guy and I'm like, I could be that guy, right? Just it was just horrible. And I used to hang around. I remember when I was 18, 19, 20 with guy friends that were like, oh, well, the way to meet girls and to socialize is to go clubbing. And I never felt comfortable with clubs. Like the whole culture of like drinking and grinding up a bit against strangers was just never like right for me. Right? Uncomfortable and invasive. And so I struggled with that. And so I started at the school actually in 2009 as a salsa level 1 student. I started here because I got an operation. That was one of the reasons. So I had a medical condition called hyperhidrosis. And hyperhidrosis is where my palms sweat constantly, like going on a date when you're 16 with a girl and holding her hand. And it's like, what? She's like, are you nervous? I'm like, no, it's a medical condition. Here's my doctor's note, right? I remember one time I was writing an exam and I had to have my hand off the paper because it would sweat so much that if my hand touches the paper, the ink would run.
Wow.
And it was high school. So I placed my hand down, the ink runs. I go to my teacher and I'm like, can I have another test paper? He's like, why? I'm like, oh, well, it got wet. He's like, I don't see any water. How did it get wet? I just remember like all the students now paying attention. I'm like, well, I have a medical condition and blah, blah, like a lot. So at 22, I found that there's an operation you can do. So they cut my rib cage open. They cut the sympathetic nerve to my hands. And Ontario, it's covered by OHIP, which is incredible. So I got this operation. So now I'm like, I'm gonna, my hands are bone dry. I'm gonna take dance classes. So I started taking dance classes here. And I mean, I can keep going with my story, but basically, I wasn't planning to run a dance school. I wasn't planning to make this a lifestyle for me. Originally, I wanted to be a marriage counselor. Then I was training to be a police officer.
Wow.
And yeah. So there's like a lot we can unpack here, and whatever threads you want to pull. But
right.
All in all, I was the last person who thought I'd be doing this.
And isn't that the way? Isn't that the way when we're living our purpose? Would you say that, you know, in doing what you're doing now, that you've really stepped into your mission, into your purpose in life? Do you feel that now, Aleks?
I mean, the big part of it was when I was with my mentor at the beginning, you know, he helped me find my one word, my core value, which is belong. And I remember when I discovered it, I was like crying. I was like, it all makes sense now. Like, right. Like why I feel so much when someone feels left out, why I feel personal pain, because since little, I always felt like an outsider and I struggled with belonging. And I remember I was walking, 12 years old, I was walking outside my school and I looked up into the sky. To this day, I remember this feeling. And I imagine myself being 90 years old and thinking I'm going to be alone for my whole life. And I saw it and I believed it. And I remember started crying because it scared me because I didn't want that. And so always, like, I would describe myself as like, I always felt that I was a donkey in a sea of horses, not realizing I'm a unicorn.
Oh, right?
And
I love that.
Right.
You
so like,
are that. You are.
Yeah.
That.
So that's the belong. That's the mission.
That's beautiful. Yes, I really understand. There's a lot of people out there who are very confused and feeling lonely. And like you know, they just don't know who they are. They don't know where they fit. They don't know what they want. They don't know how to even find it, where to look for that, right? Yeah. And what are the kinds of experiences that your clients and your students come back to you with after they've been in your dance classes?
Experiences isn't like what they've shared with me, they've gained, you mean?
Yes. Like the benefit of being in a class with you, right? I know my personal experience, but I want to hear what other people have told you.
Yeah. So I've like helped people get out of toxic relationships. Like I remember, so the way that my classes run is, every class students will come in and I'll ask them a deep question. So last week's question for this whole week was, share a time you opened up and felt more free. And so I would ask this question and like adults would write their answers and they'd be like therapy when I shared with my therapist or with my mom, right? Like really people are like in a dance class. And what happens is at the end, we do a massive circle where it's like 40 people in a circle. And then I share like a 3 to 5 minute personal story of my journey with vulnerability. And so I remember this one time I shared the journey of how do you know when you should quit on something important? It's one of my lessons. And I talk about how I was engaged and a year before we actually split up, I already knew we shouldn't be together and we were headed to a wedding and blah, blah, blah. But the moral there was big decisions with your heart, small decisions with your head. And I remember I was sharing the story and I saw this one student really being pensive. And like, whether it's my ADHD or my need for approval, but I'm very sensitive to energy. And when something is off with someone, I just catch it right away. And so I remember she walked away and she just had a weird reaction. Right. Just like, And then she walked out and I was like, I'm going to come back to that. And so like a couple of days later, I see her at a social and I come up to her and I hug her. I'm like, hey, I was doing this story. I don't know if it triggered something. Are you okay? And she looks at me. She's like, you know what? You made me break up with my boyfriend. I'm like, what? Right. Like I'm like, oh my God. So I grab her. We run outside the studio. I'm like, what happened? And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Right. Like automatically in my mind, I'm like, I messed something up.
It's a bad thing. Yes.
And then she's like, no, thank you. And I'm like, what? She's like, I was in a relationship, long distance relationship. I wanted to break up for a long time, but I didn't have the courage. And I was sitting on this decision for 3 months. And when you told me big decisions with your heart, small decisions with your head, I already knew what's to happen.
Right.
And so I've had a lot of these moments where like a man was able to reconnect with his daughter and people were able to break through and go see therapists or find their core value. That's been incredible. And just simply like women stepping into their feminine energy as followers and men stepping into their masculine energy. And we have same-sex couples as well. So like, it's, you know, when I follow, I tap into my feminine energy. There's this idea of like, unfortunately, I find in our culture, we tend to live too much in one energy, but not the other. Like, I think a healthy person should live both in a masculine and feminine energy, man or woman, doesn't matter. But you need to do like, you need to have both. You're right. There's your natural state, but you can't live if you're always in a feminine energy. And I talk about this in class. I'm like, if you're always in a feminine energy, you're receiving, but you're not creating. When you're in a masculine energy, you have to create, you take action, and like you need both. We all need both. The problem is, and I find this amazing, where women will come in and it's like, you know what? I just never listen to anyone. I just have a hard time. I'm just stubborn. I'm just the way that I am. And I'm like, you don't even know. I'm like, just trust me, take these out. And I see women just start to feel comfortable with themselves, start to flow, start to heal out of toxic relationships.
Beautiful.
And so there's like a lot I can share about that, but it's, you know, dancing is meditation. And what I found is meditation is incredible. And the painting is meditation, right? Anything that gets you in a state of flow. But what I've learned is getting into a state of flow is not enough. And when we practice and ask these questions and I share these stories, you know, if you just keep meditating, it could be an escape. It could be another Netflix. It's very easy to take anything and just escape into it. There has to be introspection. And so what I learned is in my life didn't get better with just flow. It got better with flow where I have peace. And then in peace, I unpack the things I've been avoiding. And so when I share those short stories, I help people at least feel like they're not alone in their father issues or their relationship issues or whatever.
I love that.
And so it's been incredible incredible journey.
Thank you for sharing all that detail, because this is how deep I know that you go. Because if anyone out there wants to read an inspiring newsletter, just subscribe to TDS. You don't have to sign up for a class, but you know, it's a double bonus if you do, because you get this guy in person. But every week on a Monday, normally you will get an inspiring story from Aleks about what he's learning about his life. And the last one was so beautiful about your mom and going in the cold bath. And I know that you've had several mentors in your life. So talk a little bit about these mentors that you mentioned you'd had a mentor already, and I know about your mom. So tell us a little bit about how that's helped to really mold this amazing, well-rounded man and teacher and guide and model that you are now. Tell us a little bit about those people.
First of all, I have to say I've felt so uncomfortable when you said well-rounded, but I get to receive at least 10% of that and sit with that. So thank you for that. I wanted to reject it, but I'm going to fight and say, Aleks, you deserve love and you belong. So thank you for that. So, you know, I think it's such a funny thing. I think it's my first mentor was actually in high school. His name was Mr. Fisher. He was our science teacher, very kooky guy, but he believed in me. But he also taught me how to raise my standards, and he challenged me. And when I look at the themes of having mentors in my life, you know, part of it is like growing up with my mom, my dad not here, me hungry for a masculine energy and role modeling is part of it. But my mom was an incredible and continues to be incredible role model for me. But I found that with all the mentors, including my current one, Evan Carmichael, what the theme was they want what's best for you, and they don't let you make excuses or stay in your limiting beliefs why you can't have what you want. And I think this is a really important distinction also in a good friendship. You know, a lot of times, unfortunately, we have people in our life that when we fall short, what they do is they give us a pill of it's okay, it's fine, don't worry, it happens. Where I found my mentors is if I'm down, they will give me a hug, but then they'll be like, so what are you going to do now? Beautiful. Is this still important for you? And I found that is what I always start for, because I was always hungry for growth. And what I learned was I'm not the only one. I think just some people have gotten used to such low standards in life that they've just, you know, they wake up and they're like, it's okay, it's fine. My job is fine, it's okay. But I'm like, but that's like a slow death. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of work. Mm-hmm. There were times when he was mentoring me, Evan, when I was teaching, and I'd be sobbing in the back room because he'd give me like a list of all the mistakes of why I'm teaching poorly. And I'd be crying like, why do you believe in me? Give up on me, right? Like, which is like all the insecurities and all that coming out. And he would just like ping pong it and just like deal with it. navigate my psyche to help me.
Right.
And so having a mentor is having a great coach that wears your skin. A good mentor wears your skin, because you have to wear someone's skin and feel them before you give them advice. Where I make the mistake, and I'm working on that, I give advice because I put myself in their shoes. And the order is wrong, because you look for a solution to a problem you see versus feel what they need in the moment. And what I found consistently with my mentors is they wear my skin, feel what does he need right now? Does he need a kick up or a hug? And then they give it to me.
Right.
Because we just need people to.
It sounds like you've had that then. You've had, several good examples of that to help you to really even recognize it in yourself, in what you need. And I think that's also one of the issues with people nowadays, is that they don't know what they need. We've got so many distractions, social media, and all of that in our world, that we forget that we have to start with ourselves. And I know that that's something that you've really been working on with yourself, because I watch your Instagram feed and I have seen all the crazy things that you do and you post. And I'm just in awe every time, because you're so real and so authentic. I watched your whole health journey, and your struggle with the school in teaching online classes by yourself in your condo to keep the flow and to keep the community. And now here you are, you've got your community, back up and running to the best that you can right now. Tell anyone listening here maybe let's take a couple, maybe one or two key things that you do every day. You mentioned, dancing is meditation and taking action is good, but what are the kinds of things that really keep you up, Aleks? What are your habits or your practices that you've developed?
First of all, you made me cry a little bit, because I don't think a lot about like the struggles. So I just started to cry because I'm like, it was hard, right? Like I thought about all the moments and I wanted to quit. So it's a perfect flow into what keeps. So here are two things that I'm primarily focused on right now that I think could drastically change everybody's life. One is, do not check messages on your phone in the first and the last hour of your day. Period. Because what happens is, in the first hour, you wake up, you're like a newborn chick. And you would think that your cup is filled because you slept. And let's say you slept really well. But when you wake up and the first thing you do is you respond to other people's crises, you haven't armored up in a healthy way, whether that's through meditation, whether that's through reading, whether it's just having a great breakfast and looking outside your window. And when you respond right away to other people's crises, what happens is, and we can all relate to this, is kind of like, have y'all just ever hit the snooze and then, or you oversleep by 10 minutes and then the whole day feels rushed? Give me a thumbs up. That kind of makes sense.
Right.
And so like that crisis is hard to break. That loop is hard to break. So if your first hour is you saying, let me just take care of me for an hour, you come into a grounded state and you can actually give more to others. Where if you're shaken and stirred in the morning, it's rough. Right. Everything feels like you're just trying to catch up. You're just trying to put out a fire. It's like you can't put out other people's fire. It's like, like a fire person, you have to put on your suit, right? You tell a fire person to go without an axe, without a hat, without a breathing mask into a burning building. They're not going to survive. Does that mean you shouldn't run into a burning building? No. You want to help people, but you can't do that if you don't put on your gear.
Yeah, and they're not doing that absolutely every single day either. It's coming at them, and then they deal with the crisis when it happens, and then you go back to your normal, healthy,
exactly
way of life.
Yeah, you eat healthy, you take care of yourself.
So what's the second one?
You're gonna hate this. In the morning, doing a cold bath or cold shower.
Oh yeah, no, I can't. I just,
yeah. Oh my God,
that would be my challenge.
So here's all I'll say about why I did it and why I do it, and whether it's cold showers or whatnot, but you can use the theme. We only grow by putting resistance in our life. And the easy thing to do is to pick up what's next to you, which is YouTube or Netflix or bag of chips or whatever our poison is. And so when in the morning I do a cold shower, it's not because I love it. And there are health benefits to it, and I could talk about that. But more importantly, is I hate doing it, and I'm training my mind when it wants to run away that I run towards. Because my biggest regret in life will be when I need courage and strength to do the hard things that are important, I won't have it because it's a muscle.
Right.
Courage is a muscle that's formed through discipline. And if it's, for example, for you working out in the morning or doing something physically jolting that you want to reject and you do it, you train yourself and reshape your identity that you're the type of person who does difficult things, which means when an actual difficult, important thing comes, you do it. That's why I do cold showers.
It makes me think of, having difficult conversations with people as a coach. I teach people how to communicate. And many times the most difficult things for people are, well, I need to talk about this issue with this person who means something to me. And I don't even know where to start because I have all these programmed, patterns of how I talk. And so it makes me think of that and how I've taught people how to approach the conversation, how to have the conversation, how to leave the conversation. And, that takes a lot of courage as well. And I love that you said, about taking care of self so that you're building that muscle for the future, right? And so that you can become the person that you are meant to be on this planet, because, we're all born with that in us at the beginning. Spirit is right there with us. So many wonderful things that you've given for people today, Aleks. I'm so grateful. Now, tell me a little bit now about your life when you think about your own spirituality and your own sense of self with, you said that you had that moment when you were 9 years old and you kind of looked up into the universe. Is that something that you do carry with you on an ongoing basis? How does that work for you?
You know what? It was a struggle. Like so when I was 13, 14, 15, I would argue with my mom because my mom is like Christian. I'd argue and disprove God to her. And I remember this one point because I would like to rationalize and I would attack it. And I remember one time I made my mom cry because I asked her some legitimate questions she couldn't answer about God. But I made her cry and I was like, oh, this isn't good. And I remember feeling guilty because I was like, well, does it really matter that she believes in it if it gives her joy and happiness? Like, it doesn't matter. And then most recently, about 2 years ago, I was listening to or reading Brene Brown, an amazing author, like talking about vulnerability and opening with your heart and love and belonging, all this stuff. And one thing she says is, we all actually seek spirituality. And I love the way that she kind of defines it. She says, spirituality isn't believing in a deity, but it's that you feel connected to something bigger. And we all hunger to be connected to something bigger. That is literally in our DNA. And there are many ways to label it, but it is. It doesn't matter if it's religion. And why is there so much loneliness and pain in the world? It's because we feel disconnected from our communities, from our people, from our body, from ourselves. We don't feel we belong. Because if you do actually feel truly connected, you will feel belong. And so I struggle with this too. So for me, spirituality is an idea of like that there's a bigger mission I have on this planet, and that what I give you has an effect on everybody else. That it's not just this moment. That I touch you and you will touch every other person you come in contact with. And so that in my mind is spirituality.
Right.
I was just having a conversation yesterday.
I just want to bring one little thing in, and it's not little, but I want you to tell us about the man who walks around the mall and every day you and him would have a conversation. So share with us just for a minute or two about that experience. It's just so profound.
Yeah, that's perfect. So what happened was about 3 years ago, I'm walking into my studio and I see this, there are these rails there, and I see this old, a gentleman, and he's like stretching his feet like this as he's holding on. And I thought, and I love like unique things. And I sighed and I giggled and and I looked at him, I said, "Happy Monday." And he's like, "Happy Monday." And he keeps exercising. And I'm like cracking up. I'm like, oh my God, this is so delicious. So I walk into the studio, and the next day I'm walking to the studio and I hear someone yell, "Happy Tuesday." And I'm like, what the? And I don't see anybody. And then I look at the other side of the mall and he's stretching and smiling. And he's like, I gotcha. Right. So he does this thing. And so for the last 3 years, his name is Hassan. For the last 3 years, we've been chasing each other to wish each other whatever the day is. Happy Sunday. And the two really important points I want to make is, one, I remember one time, it was about 2 years ago, I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed, stressed. And you know when like you're in a fog and you don't hear anything around you? And so I'm standing in line at Second Cup, and people are like, hey, are you going to go? I'm like, no, I'm just overwhelmed with my school, just stressed or whatever. And I hear, wah, wah, wah. I'm like, what the hell is it? You know, like in a subway, Thursday. And I look back, and at this point, his health is deteriorating, so he's on a walker mostly. But he's giggling, and he's like thrusting his pelvis at me, laughing, I got you, right? But it broke my thought pattern. And I ran up to him, and I hugged him, and I said, you don't even know how much that means.
Beautiful.
So now fast forward to now. He's in a wheelchair. He can't walk. He can barely speak. His nurse brings him up here to roll by almost every day now to catch me and wish me a happy Monday, happy Tuesday.
You made a
and
big
I say
difference.
To him, and he made a big difference in my life.
Exactly. Yeah. Such a beautiful story. I wanted to share that because I know from being at the dance studio that has been, I would say, one of those kind of daily moments of sunshine that has inspired. And it's such a simple thing to create a smile in another person's world. And you and he, you know, kind of like had this soulmate connection and not even knowing. And I think that that's the beauty that we as humans can have with each other. So now let's kind of change tactics. We've got a couple minutes left, and let's talk about this idea of sacred economics, which I shared with you on the phone on the weekend. So it's really the idea that when we share our gifts and our services with others, we don't always have to transact money in order for things to be sacred and for it still to be economical. Of course, we do have money in our bartering system right now, but the idea that we can share, we can change the parameters of how we do business sometimes if we choose to do it intentionally. So tell the people who are listening what it is that you're offering as part of this kind of part of the interview series, this sacred economic exchange. What's going on?
Yeah, so I want to be able to share the gift of dance. And so the way that it works is Gail is going to be putting up her number at some point. She's going to be announcing it. And whoever texts Gail first, whoever gives her that text message, will be getting a 1 hour one-on-one free private lesson at the studio with me.
Wow.
And I get to share my gift with you. I'm excited. Yeah, of course. Oh my gosh, it's going to be fun. Hopefully maybe we'll run into Hassan and we'll wish him.
So generous. So as Aleks mentioned, he is offering this 1 hour dance session with him. And he also mentioned on his Instagram, in that beautiful studio in North York. And he also mentioned on his Instagram story, I am also matching his offer. So I am a certified coach and I'm also a spiritual teacher. So I'm offering 1 hour of my time. What I'd like to offer someone, and they don't have to take me up on this particular aspect of the offer, but it's what I'm being drawn to share, is because we're dealing with the body and we're dealing with movement and we're dealing with energy with the dance, what I'd like to offer is a 1 hour, let's say, experience where I will take you through your body from an energetic perspective. And we will clear blockages and we will relax you, and together we'll create this sacred space for you to be able to have a much better experience with your body. And you'll be able to have the recording and take this and use it anytime you want. If that's not of use for you, that's fine. I will do a regular coaching session or a channeling session, whatever you want. But so I'm offering that. So the phone number to text is 416-358-1457. So I'll say it again, 416-358-1457. So you have until 12 noon on Friday, because I'm not doing an interview tomorrow, 12 noon on Friday to text me to say that you love sacred economics and you want to work with Aleks, and that will be yours. So the first person who texts me before 12 noon. So if you're listening to the replay, you could be that person, because we don't know who or when is going to send in and make that request. So for that one lucky person, you can also gift these things. You don't have to have them for yourself, which also encourages the whole sacred economics part of this. So if there's someone in your life that you think could really benefit from either of these two experiences, please just let us know and we will accommodate that. So
I'm also going to add one more thing.
Yes.
Just because I'm in the spirit of giving, and Glow, thank you so much for feeling my story and about Hassan. And I saw that. I saw your tears and I received that. Thank you so much. And Rosemary for just smiling and sending up positive. So here's the uplift. I feel like someone from this group is going to text you right away. So I'm offering 2 free privates. I'm going to level it up. One only strictly for the YouTube people, and one for whoever messages today with me.
So
because like whatever, right? Like people are at work. I don't want, I'm like, oh man, right? So I'm doing 2. I'm going to do 2.
I'm going to match you there, Aleks. I'm going to match you. I'm getting goosebumps.
Let's do it.
And so so now the deal is you have until 12 noon on Friday to text my number, and you are going to either be coming from YouTube or you're be coming from this recording. So wonderful. And so you can decide how you want to choose the work with me, whether you take it yourself or you gift it. It's up to you. And 2 people will be able to take advantage of that. Aleks, it's just such a pleasure always to see you, to talk to you, to be in your energy. I can't thank you enough for coming on today to be with us. And as always, you are just a ray of sunshine to your whole community. And, there's so many other things that I could talk to you about, the whole feminine, masculine thing and everything, and your health journey. So for now, unless I'm doing this again, this has been so wonderful. Thank you so much. And to everyone who's here and everyone who's listening, thank you so much. This is Gail Scott, and we will see you on Friday at 12 noon for our next 12 days of conversation video. Thank you again.
Woo.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.